You were saying that you had a really deep conversation with Tom from the Messingers about spirituality whilst you were mixing that. Were there any conversations which you had that informed this new record that kind of fed into it in a similar way?
I'm trying to remember. Man, I do remember that conversation with Tom. Tom rocks. You could just like get into shit with Tom. No, I don't know. I'll just kind of be on a song by song basis, but no, I wasn't having any spiritual conversations. I don't feel like. I felt like I was like going through a fucking bit of a existential crisis when I was writing a lot of these songs. Like it was more just trying to like adjust to my life because I felt like my life had changed drastically in a very short amount of time. And even if it didn't, I think people's perception of me changed really drastically in that short amount of time. And my perception of me wasn't any different. And it's like a really weird, dumb thing to even try to explain or try and figure out. And I think like I spent the course of a record trying to like figure out who I am. So no spiritual conversations, but a lot of like, I guess, self-reflection.
What was the kind of biggest revelation you came to then as a result of that? You know, through that process and using the record in that manner, or the record becoming that thing?
I think, sorry, that's a big question that I haven't really ever thought about because I don't really, I don't know. I think about that like, and hopefully by the end of the record, I'll have like figured something out. I think just kind of like that it's okay to feel crazy, and it's not like, it's not something that people are, it's not something you have to begrudge yourself for. And also that, you know, it's important to have perspective and like understand that like, you know, in the grand scheme of things, whatever is causing your anxiety at that particular moment is probably not going to be something that is going to end your world. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that those are some things that I came away with. I think I kind of came away from that and also like a year off tour before the pandemic of just kind of like, I don't know, just kind of being able to adjust to it and not really kind of get into that zone where I am fearful that any fucking word that I say or anything that I think could like make somebody really, really upset. Like that's, I think I was just putting a lot of pressure on myself. And, you know, I thought maybe by putting out a record where I kind of talk a little bit about just like not being a fucking, like, I don't know, not just being a shit. Like I just wanted to be a little bit more about being a little shit on this record, you know?
When you're saying, you know, saying something that could upset people, are you meaning through your music or more just in any sense?
I mean, maybe through my music a little bit, although that is usually a pretty safe space for thoughts. You know, to think things through in an interview, yeah, maybe, but not really. I think more just like in a personal conversation with somebody who I'm meeting, who I've never met before, but who already knows a lot of personal things about me because they listen to my music. And that's just kind of like a weird imbalance, like right out the gate, if that makes sense. So just kind of like not trying to say something to somebody that's going to make them feel like they're stupid or I don't know. Look, man, it's a weird thing. I think that like, it's just like, it's a difficult thing to explain unless you're going through it. But I was having a really hard time, I guess, like adjusting to the fact that anybody has any perception of me at all, you know?
Yeah. And it's it can be quite a filtered perception as well. Because I imagine what you're putting out into the world is probably still quite a small percentage of who you are, even if it's completely honest and true in that way.
Yeah, I think that maybe I'm trying to just like, I don't know, trying to pull it in a way where it's like, okay, I want to be more honest about things so that it doesn't catch people. I don't fucking know, man. It's a whole thing. It's a whole thing. I think it just kind of all like, yeah, I don't know that I really am putting forward that much of a filtered version of myself, but I am. But I guess definitely, especially with the more political stuff, I think once you start talking about politics, you get to a point where people start possibly thinking that you've never fucked anything up in your entire life because you could talk about these other things that are fucked up instead. you know? And I don't think there's anybody who hasn't fucked anything up in their entire life.
But I guess in order to make those points about the political things that you kind of speak about, you have to. Does that almost force you to be more transparent yourself and be completely open in that way, so that you're kind of. Imagine if you're open, do you then feel a little bit more free to make those points with less repercussions, or?
I'm not really sure. I mean, repercussions is, again, it's like I'm really just, the things that were like getting to me was just like basic, like one-on-one conversation shit, like stuff that I dealt with for a while before Bond the music industry started, and I was kind of forced into like, well, if you want to book your own tours, if you're gonna have to be able to fucking talk to people and not feel like you're having a nervous breakdown the whole time. And it just kind of came back a little bit, like being on tour and just kind of like being in the washing machine of what is being in a like professionally touring band for a few years, which I've been in a lot of bands, but this was like the first chunk of time that it was ever like, oh, this is like what we do and we're always on tour and it's really fun. But like it did have this weird side effect that I was having a hard time grappling with. I'm always pretty open in my songs. So I feel like actually like talking about political shit, that came after I was open about so many things about how, you know, whatever fucking shit I'm going through. I feel like I was more scared to talk about that stuff just because I didn't want to say something inaccurate, or I just, you know, didn't want to sound like a dumbass while talking about like some like pretty horrific shit, you know?
Yeah. Just coming back to what you were saying at the start of that as well about those one-on-one conversations that you were having, is it easier to express yourself honestly in your music or in a conversation?
I mean, I think I'm perfectly capable of expressing myself honestly in both. It's more just like not being like terrified of the outcome as much. And I think with music, you know, I get a lot of time to look at those lyrics and try and make sure that I am saying the thing that I want to say. You know, luckily over the past few years, and honestly for some time, like I've had an audience for the music that I've made with my bands, and people have responded positively to the lyrics and have related to them in good ways, which makes me feel less alone in those like honest thoughts that might otherwise feel kind of crazy, which is a nice thing, which is a really like positive byproduct of being in a band and making music. It's a real, I think maybe that's why I do put so much stock in those conversations that I have with people, because it's also as important to me. And then take that to like a normal conversation with somebody like at a party, you don't fucking really get that. You just get like, okay, I said this thing. Oh God, does everybody hate me? You know?
Yeah, I get what you mean though. I mean, with the lyrics as well, what you're saying there about how you get a little bit more time to refine them than a conversation, which tends to be more spontaneous. Are the lyrics typically just like a stream of consciousness, or do you spend quite a lot of time tweaking them and just, you know, shaping them a little bit?
I definitely shape them like pretty much everything. Like I just kind of try and think, you know, I think a lot of songs get 90% there, and then I will like spend a little bit of, not that much time, but you know, I'll demo the songs and then we'll have a year between when I demo the songs and when we record the record sometimes. Over that amount of time, like the songs, they kind of bloom a little bit and you kind of figure out like, oh, you know what? This is actually what I was trying to say, you know? Yeah, it's kind of different on 2020 Dump though, because that was just like, you know, once it was done, that was out.
At what point as well do you identify, you know, like a lyrical piece of writing that you've created as a verse or a chorus or a medley or a bridge? At what point do they start to take that shape where they actually occupy a space in a song?
Oh, well, I mean, usually the song is structured before the words come on top of it, you know? So I already know where it's going to be. I think I think I'm just trying to write something that makes sense all together. I'm trying like, and every song is different, you know? Maybe something that happens sometimes is that like the choruses kind of inform the rest in a way, because the chorus might just be like for Scram, for example, like the "Don't You Wanna Go Away," like I probably had that before I had anything else in that song. And then that gets to the point where I have to ask myself, like, "Don't you want to go away?" Why am I saying that? Why did that like subconsciously pop into my brain? What was I trying to get at there? You know, that's kind of how it works. And then I don't know, a song like State Line, like those verses definitely, like that song kind of happened where like, I was writing that song, like I wrote that song in a bathroom in Sweden where we were staying at somebody's house, somebody's apartment, where we're all sleeping on the floor of like the studio apartment where their bed was in the room too. And I'm just like trying to like hum something in my phone in the bathroom that is like right next to where everybody is trying to sleep. And then it kind of like bloomed at sound checks and stuff where I just try and find more melodies and try and figure out what it was going to be. But I feel like those verse lyrics came, and then like the chorus lyrics were there, but I couldn't really figure, like it was just about trying to figure out like, well, how does that make sense? How does any of that make sense? And sometimes it's like, it's cool to leave it vague and cool to be like, well, this kind of paints a picture and that's nice. But sometimes I think you do have to like kind of tweak it to make it just like say like that song. I feel like maybe the second half of the chorus kind of informs the first half of the chorus that was a little bit more instinctual and a little bit more just like subconscious, I think that it just kind of like all works off of itself,
Yeah, the song's like almost having a conversation with itself in a way, like it's kind of feeding back and forth and the energy's all connecting with each other.
Because I mean, that's life. I think that's something I end up coming back to when I talk to people about lyrics, because I don't like, also like I do not think about this shit. I don't think of it in the terms that we're talking about it right now. Like this is just kind of like almost like CSI damage assessment shit. Like I'm just trying to do a thing. But we are all, we're all experiencing all of it at once. Like our subconscious informs our conscious and vice versa, even if those words aren't exactly correct. Consciousness, subconsciousness. But so I think a lot of the writing that I do, I do try and I do aim to like be able to like address all of the feelings all at the same time. And I think maybe that just comes from my own personality of really feeling kind of overwhelmed by everything all at once.
When you're initially performing those songs and you haven't, like you said, the lyrics kind of come out and you don't really think about them too much until afterwards when you maybe assess them a little bit. The first kind of times when you're performing them, what are you tapping into then, and what are you getting a hold of for the vocal performance? What's kind of guiding you in that arena?
I feel like the first time I'm just like, oh fuck, man, okay, I get those lyrics. Like I don't know, like it's very weird. There's not like a ton of songs that like I could explain it this way. And I don't sound like an asshole, maybe. Like I'm not thinking about it. I'm not thinking about how I feel about the song. I'm just thinking about what the song feels like, if that makes sense. I think what I feel about the song, like that job is done once the song has been written and recorded. That's it. And then it's what anybody else takes from the song. So maybe there's a part of me that doesn't, because when I'm playing, I feel like I'm in like lights out mode. I like, if you like tap me on the shoulder, I probably be, well, what the fuck? What the fuck's going on? What's going on? You know what I mean? Like I'm in a different zone when I'm playing most of the time. Like sometimes that zone is I'm really out of breath and oh my God, we're going to play for 50 more minutes. Oh fuck. But a lot of times that zone is just like, I can't really tell. I'm just like in a moment, I'm not really thinking about the songs. I think maybe that is because I'm feeding off the energy of whatever other people are taking the songs and trying to take that and give that back out, like that seems more naturally to me than to like that. Honestly, that feels more natural to me than playing the festival song at a festival and thinking about the irony of it. like when I do that, I feel like I'm not thinking about other people. I'm thinking about myself. And Jesus fucking Christ, my songs are already so fucking self-centered. Like I think that like at some point I gotta hand that shit off, you know?
It taps into I know you're saying that it feels more natural. It feels like it would feed into how raw the soundscape is as well, and the kind of how the songs feel.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, again, like all this stuff is again like I feel like I'm reverse engineering. Like, why do I do that? You know, it's just all the stuff that feels natural to me. Like I was talking to my buddy Sean from AJJ the other day about how I played like an acoustic live stream in my basement. And when I was done, I have like this, my arm is like bleeding. It's still all cut up. And I had like a fucking huge, like lemon sized welt on my arm, like from just playing so hard. And just like, I have no chill. Like I have no, like that's just the space I go to. Like in my head, I'm like, okay, I'm playing in my basement into my phone. I do not need to like play as hard as I can. In fact, it'll sound worse if I play as hard as I can, but I still just like, that's just like the mode I'm always in. I can't like shake out of it. I have no chill. I'll find it someday, I hope.
You've got to go all or nothing. You can't kind of...
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think there's a way to go all and still be chill. You just go all in on the chill. I just haven't fucking figured it out yet. I want to go all in on the chill.
You were saying that State Line was written in a bathroom a little bit earlier on in Sweden as well.
Yeah.
What was the story with the shipping container in Slovenia?
Do I talk about that in that song?
No, but that was just I was just kind of thinking touring in odd places.
I'm wondering how you know about we played a place in Slovenia, and like the place they set up for us to stay was in a shipping container that they had beds in, and it was during a rave. Like there was a rave on the same like I guess compound. I don't really know. Like there was a big collective energy between like the shipping containers that were being used for sleep, and the venue that we played, and this other like big building that they were having a massive rave. Between whatever is getting lost in translation and like having been on tour for weeks, I don't exactly know what was going on. But it was I don't know. I thought it was a cool energy. I wouldn't want to sleep in a shipping container every night in my life where when I have to get up, I have to go to bathrooms in a trailer and there's somebody who's like on E trying to talk to me when it's like 3:00 in the morning and I'm trying to take a diarrhea shit on tour. Like that wouldn't be my ideal scenario for permanence. But like for one night, it was a trip for sure.
Like where are the shipping containers? What are they on?
They're just like in the parking lot.
Fair enough.
On the ground.
I'm unfamiliar with it.
Do you know what a shipping container looks like?
Yeah. But I just...
Yeah, so imagine one of those detached and it's got beds in it.
Okay.
And there was a fridge that was unplugged. And they were sanitizing it before we showed up, which is very nice of them, but makes you wonder, like, why is this being sanitized?
When was this? What kind of time frame are we talking?
This was on the Worry tour in Europe with Doe. So that's
2016? 17?
2017.
What we were saying earlier as well about how lyrically the instrumentation is usually there and then the lyrics kind of go on top of it quite naturally. How did that function for No Time on the new record? The way you kind of just open the album with this sharp burst of clarity. Was that an instrumental piece? Was that a similar thing? It kind of functioned in that way?
No, that just kind of all like showed up in my head as I was very anxious in a parking lot waiting. Like had something to do. I was waiting for somebody in a parking lot. I was very, very anxious. I was just thinking about a lot of things. And then that was it. Like that's kind of a sign that like I didn't even need to demo. I knew how it went. But I will say that like over time, like the lyrics of that song completely changed as I was like running. I run a lot, and on my runs, sometimes I like the line, say for example, like basking in the fruits of my soft complicity. Like I was like, oh, that's what I want to fucking say. You know what I mean? Like I think that song went through a lot of verse iterations where like I was not getting the point across that I was trying to get across, which was basically. I don't know. I mean, whatever I take from the song, who fucking cares? That's kind of how I feel about it. But like, I already said it. Like, but that was yeah, with that song. And I think opening the record that way, I just like Post was a chiller, and I wanted to open the record with a loud, fast, fucking in your face thing. I was just like at the time of writing the record, just listening to a lot of punk, listening to a lot of like old, not old, well, I guess it's old now, but like 90s like pop punk, like a lot of stuff that I liked when I first started playing music. I was just making a lot of really short pop punk songs on Craig of the Creek, and I think all that kind of informed like kind of busted out the gates with like a short, fast one.
So have you noticed Craig of the Creek and working on that have an impact upon the music you're making?
Yeah, for sure. But in a weird way where like it's not. I guess what I thought when I started working on the show, I would have thought that like the arrangements that I was coming up with would become more dense and more like orchestral, just because of the nature of working on composition for television, you know. But weirdly, it just kind of informed me to go back to like shit that I liked when I was a kid. I think just because there's so much like fucking positive, crazy kid energy on that show, and I think that like that kind of jolted that back into me a little bit, and that kind of like also informed like the more punk shit on this record.
It's a trippy show as well, and it moves at speed.
Yeah, it's fast. I get some of these sometimes, and I'm just like, holy shit! Like, how am I not the person making the craziest thing on this show? You know?
As a result of that, does your mind kind of function differently creatively when you're composing for Craig as opposed to the music you're making? Even your solo stuff for other projects.
I wouldn't say as a function of that, but it's differently because like I have a schedule with Craig that I have to keep. So I have to make X amount of music or else I'm fucked, you know, or else like I have to talk to somebody and tell them like, hey, episode's not going to be on time because I couldn't do my job, which is not what I'm trying to do because I'd like to keep my job because I like it a lot. So there's a thing with Craig where it's just like, I just have to make it. Whereas my own songs, I could be a little bit lazier with them. And honestly, I don't really think that that's a good thing. So I don't know.
Do you compose to images? Do you have it kind of playing as you're working on the music?
Yeah. So I'm watching the show, basically like as it will be on TV, just with no sound effects. And sometimes, some of the like lines haven't been recorded yet by voice actors, but it's like 98% there what I'm writing to. So I'm writing to picture because I got to time it all out too, you know? Like I'm surfing a wave there.
Do you ever write, when you're writing music for your solo stuff as well, do you ever write with images in your mind? If you think about songs like B&B, it's quite narrative kind of based, and you've got those sharp images in each verse.
Yeah, I mean, that is just more of like remembering experiences. Although, yeah, I guess so. Like when I was, I guess, writing out the words of that song, I was thinking about that shower where I was first starting to think about that song, that house that I was walking around in at night looking at everybody's photos like a psycho, and like that place that we stayed at in Prague on our day off where like us and Doe drank absinthe, and like I was like, I got fucked up, but did I get absinthe fucked up? I don't know if this is really absinthe or like my fucking broken ass knees. Like I do visually remember all that stuff now that I'm thinking about it. I don't know if I necessarily write to images. I don't really like, I don't think in that way, you know? I don't know. I think the most consistent thing with all of it is, I guess, I can think of currently, and this is like, I don't know, my writing has changed over time. I think currently, like, a lot of it is trying to like chase back, like, what was the subconscious thought that like led to whatever that song got, like, started being called in its nascent stages. Like, what was the first lyric and what does that mean and why am I saying that? I think that that's kind of like what I think about most. I think of like records sometimes in terms of like movies, like Worry, for example. I wanted to have kind of that feeling like in that movie Death Proof. I don't know if I think I've talked about this before, but in that movie Death Proof, where it's just kind of like, it's really like one huge buildup before like shit fucking goes down. And when shit goes down, it's like, oh shit, it's just like car crashes and fights and it's fucking insane. Like, especially the first time the shit goes down, like I wanted like bang on the door to feel like that car crash in that movie where it's just like, oh shit, it's real. Oh fuck, you know? So I think of it, so like movies inspire me in those ways when I'm writing my own songs. Yeah.
Does that change how you feel about the individual songs as well? Because if you're then putting a little bit of pressure on that one song to be the massive kind of thing that you're building up to.
Well, no, because
not
it's
one
just
song,
like,
but you know.
well, no, because I think that just all like lends itself to the idea of an album having an arc, you know? So I think it's really helpful to think of things in that way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it helps you kind of structure it.
Yeah, it gives you something nice to be like, well, I know a song is one thing, but trying to sustain a feeling over like 40 minutes is a whole different thing. So I think that like looking at movies and shit for inspiration there makes a lot of sense.
Did you have an arc in your mind as well for this new record?
This new record, no, this song's just kind of like, I think this new record, it was basically about like what songs speak to each other and what songs sound good next to each other. And like Leave It in the Sun was written after the record I thought was pretty much done being written, which is weird because it ended up being one of my favorite songs because like the A side was like crazy shorter than the B side. And that made no sense to me. But like, and I liked the flow of it, but then I was like, I feel like something's missing. So I think like that happens too, where like I'm just kind of trying to figure out like what feels engaging for a long period of time. This one felt like a weird outlier because it ends with like two like very, very long songs, at least for our band. They're 4 minutes and 5 minutes long. Yeah, I don't know. It really like I don't want to ascribe to any like this is how I do this. It's just kind of like what is like how is it forming and trying to like be open to how it's forming and kind of following that path instead of trying to be rigid and know like I know this works. I know when I worked on Worry, I thought about Death Proof. So I'm going to think about this movie this time. Like, it's not really like that. It's just kind of like whatever pops in and seems like it's a positive force to guide the rest of it, you know?
Similar to what we were saying earlier, they'll kind of just, in the same way that we were saying the individual like pieces in a song kind of figure out the energy of it. It's the same thing with the record as a whole. The songs kind of just help each other out a little bit.
Yeah, I think so. I think yeah, definitely. It's interesting because it's like it ends up being like puzzle pieces, but I don't know. I think with sequencing, this is kind of my brain just has always liked records that are sequenced well, and I think a lot about sequencing when I'm working on records. I feel like I usually end up helping a lot with sequencing on records that I produce and all that stuff. I think that sequencing is like crazy important.
Do you ever think about the themes, or are they kind of just an organic thing that threads it together?
I think that that's more of an organic thing that threads it together. I mean, if any songs are written in a certain amount of time, you know, the themes will be there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because
like
you don't have to a moment of time.
Yeah. It's kind of like documenting all the feelings, you know, at a certain point. And I think trying to shoehorn something in there is honestly like a little insulting to an audience.
What we talking time frame wise for the writing of this then? If they were written in a kind of burst, how long?
I mean, they weren't for No Dream. This is like a, and then I guess I don't know. Maybe when I say like these are songs that all spoke to each other, like this is kind of a longer collection. Post was very bursty, and Worry was very bursty, but this one was like fucking. So State Line, we're talking about 2017.
Oh, okay.
So Scram and State Line and maybe in like Nike's All, like some of these songs like started getting written in like 2017, like after Post was done. No Time, like before Beauty of Breathing for sure. That was like the demo was recorded in 2017, I think. Like all these were things that I worked on before, like after Post was done being written, but before Post happened. I don't really ever stop writing all that much. I try and keep it going because I feel like once I stop, I'm fucked. Ohio Turnpike, I started writing in like 2016, maybe 2015. Like these are songs, a lot of these songs were just ones that grew over a long period of time. So I guess to answer your question, like I could say that like the bulk of this was like a good chunk of this was written in 2018, in that year off from tour, and especially like demoed in that period of time. And like there were some shows I was playing acoustic around the time of Post too, and a lot of these songs like happened like Honeymoon Ashtray was a song I was playing a lot acoustic. Old Crap I was playing acoustic. There's one other one, probably Scram I was playing acoustic and just kind of getting into it. But like, I think there's always like a chunk of time when a bunch of songs are being written. But like there's also ones that have been hanging out for a while that need to find their home. And a few of them always, and like a little bit of this makes it onto every record and a little bit of that makes it onto every record, you know?
Do songs ever end up homeless, or do they always find a way?
The songs end up homeless. Sometimes parts end up in different songs, but sometimes that ends up cool. Like the chorus, like the hey, 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 like that was in a different song that I thought was going to be on Worry. And then like after listening to it, I was like, oh, these chords are Lithium. This is Lithium by Nirvana, or it was Drain You. And I was like, fuck, okay. And I was also like, the song wasn't that great. But then when I was like trying to figure out where, like when I was working on Festival Song, because I feel like I had the verse of that song and I felt like the chorus of that song was like fine and I didn't really like it. And I was like, I want to amp this up. I was like, oh shit, well, I have that thing that would actually go really good here. So sometimes it works out like that. And then sometimes there's just songs that like don't end up being anything, and that's weird, but like they might pop up every now and then, like Ohio Turnpike, and then when they pop up they end up being like way better than the original idea that you had. All This Useless Energy is kind of like that too, where that was like, I think that was written in 2014, but then like it ended up on Post because that's when it like bloomed, you know?
Does stuff ever make its way into the show as well, the Craig of the Creek? Will things that were maybe kind of floating around as song ideas work their way into the score for that?
Yeah, for sure. But also a lot of Craig is just so immediate, and it's just like, what is the melody I could think of now? Like they all work their way in and out of stuff, if that makes sense. So like if you watch season 3 of Craig of the Creek, you will hear like some melodies and some riffs that ended up on 2020 Dump. And then quite literally, like 2 of the closing credits songs in that show ended up being full songs. And those are situations where like I'm writing something that's like 10 seconds long, and then accidentally I'm like, this is a fucking song. Like, I don't want this to not be a song just because the original context of it was supposed to be short. It doesn't really happen in the way where like I'm working on a song and I'm like, oh fuck, I don't have an idea for this part, I better put State Line in there. I don't know if that kills the song. I don't know if I'm allowed to like have that be a song afterwards, like legally. I don't know what Cartoon Network owns and what I own, and I kind of feel like the safest thing to do is keep all that shit really low key and just have it kind of like, you know, be the other way.
Do you find if an idea originally comes from something like a 10-second, like something, you know, closing credits bit, does it still maintain that same bite then when you kind of stretch it out into a fully formed song?
Well, the 2 that I could think of, which are on 2020 Dump, like I think Hang in the Heat did. I think that's cool. Like that song, I just kind of wish that could have just been a full song. And weirdly, Illegal Fireworks and Hiding Bottles in the Sand, like I feel like there was still, I love the way that turned out. I'm really happy with that song. I've been thinking about that song for years, and I'm happy I finally found a context on 2020 Dump that it made sense in, and that it seemed like an okay place to put it out, where it didn't seem like, hey, guess what? I'm putting out the closing credits song on my own. It has all these fucking different lyrics. Like, I don't want to be a jerk, you know? But I still feel like there's some like weird magic in that first, actually both of them. Like there's some weird magic in the first take of everything and capturing the creation of it that I don't think you really get back. I don't think it's a matter of like stretching something from 10 seconds to 3 minutes, because that's not what I'm doing. Like it is a song at that point. Like the 12-second end credits version of it is just a 12-second excerpt of a song that I haven't recorded yet, if that makes sense. But there is something in the performance that I think is just like, it's impossible to capture like what your initial idea is again if you're trying to recapture it.
It's interesting what you were saying there as well about Fireworks and how you've been kind of wanting to get that out for a little while and then found that place for it on 2020 Dump. Do you sometimes need context like that to finish a song? And did that change quite dramatically when you found that place for it?
The song didn't change dramatically But I think you definitely need context for a song. I think that's again why Ohio Turnpike was sitting around for so long, because that song didn't make sense. It wasn't a song yet on Worry, and it didn't make sense on Post. But it made sense in this record, and it kind of was able to like find itself in the context of this record. You know what I mean? I think the context I'm speaking more about with Fireworks is that like kind of a low key, low pressure thing where like I don't know, I don't have to. I don't know. I think that could have ended up on I think that could have ended up the album closer on whatever the next record is. But I was thinking about it a lot now during this. Like all the songs that ended up on 2020 Dump like are part of a big pile of songs that just like right now these songs like ended up fully formed, and that's how they turned out. And so that one just ended up being fully formed now. I think maybe it was part like I got an 8-track tape machine, which I'm pretty stoked about, and that kind of encouraged me to finish writing lyrics for it, you know, is just playing into it and seeing how it sounded. And then once that was done, I was like, oh shit, song's done, sick, you know.
When did you get that tape machine?
I got it right before lockdown.
Have you seen it have quite a big impact upon what you've been crafting since?
Yes. I've mastered everything on 2020 Dump to the tape machine, which is not its intended purpose, but just so I could get a little bit more used to tape. And I tracked a song called Old Cold on it, which I think turned out okay. I still like, I'm just so comfortable in Pro Tools that I have a hard time shifting off of it. But like a lot of gear that I've gotten that I haven't really understood when I've gotten it, like I do very, 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 very slowly like figure out its place in my life and in my music. Like we had a like bomb the music industry. I was on tour and Korg has this keyboard called the micro sampler where you could put samples in and play them on a keyboard. And we had no use for it, but I bought it on tour with band money because I was like, we're going to use this someday. I bet that there's a way to use it. And I got yelled at by some band members because it never got used. And it didn't ever get used in Bomb, but now it's a keyboard we use in our band all the time. And like, it's my keyboard. And I wouldn't be able to have like a good Wurlitzer, a good a good fucking Mellotron, any of those sounds, or like my little like 9 out of 10 like glitch out guitar shit, like all that's through that keyboard. It just like takes me like years sometimes to figure out how to like fully understand what a piece of cool shit is, how I will use it, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of the same with what we were just saying about songs as well. Sometimes they take a few years to reveal where they should sit and what their kind of purpose should be in your broader catalog and the record they should go on.
Yeah, and I think that allowing that amount of patience is a byproduct of like also being very impulsive and writing a lot and putting out music at a fast clip. Like it takes a little bit less pressure off of like, oh shit, I got to write 12 songs. Like, you know?
I mean, when did you kind of start doing that and putting out so much stuff and being so prolific? You've kind of been like that since the get-go, really, right?
Yeah, I think after ASOB, like ASOB worked, my first band, we worked on a record called 3 Cheers for Disappointment for a really long time. And a lot of that was like, we didn't really know what a band was supposed to do. Like we did pretty well locally, but that doesn't mean you're living. And we did okay touring, and when we would have opportunities to play to a lot of people, like we did really good, and people responded well, but we like were trying to get signed to a label because we didn't really know how to take a next step ourselves. We didn't really know it was possible, and it wasn't really as possible back then because digital shit was like kind of just kicking off. And so what that translated to was that we would buy a bunch of merch and try and sell it on tour because we'd always be touring. And that was how we were trying to reach more people. And we would always just kind of be in merch debt because we didn't really have a web store that we were selling things through. And then we had no money to record a record. So I was just like sitting on the idea of this record for like 4 years, and not to mention we recorded it 2 times and it sounded bad. Like it was bad. Like we had like a demo version of the record where we just played it live. That one was actually kind of sick, but it's not really the record. We did a version with our friend AJ in Purchase, and like it wasn't good. Like we didn't play it good. We didn't get the vibe. It was just completely wrong. We scrapped it. Anyway, when that band was done, when I was like, I want to put out music for free and I don't want to fucking worry about like having to pay to record and have to worry about like, oh, we can't make a record. Like we have to keep touring on this bullshit that I don't like. When I got out of that band, I wrote and recorded those first 2 Bomb the Music Industry records and a whole bunch of other songs within a year. Cause I was like, oh shit, I could just record on my own. Let's go. And I've kind of just stayed in that mentality since. Like I've never had a reason to shift outside of that, you know? Which I think at the time probably seemed like a weird thing, but I think I maybe accidentally developed a skill that like allows me to write music quickly for the cartoon.
Yeah. You recorded the first Bomb the Music Industry songs, not through like your inbuilt computer microphone as well.
I recorded Sweet Home Canada that way, yeah. And then I got an M-Box, and I recorded a lot of that stuff through the M-Box and Pro Tools, but with like a bunch of cracked plugins that like if you listen to those records, you could hear like a psh, psh, psh every now and then. Or not cracked, just like trial plugins that the trial ran out, but I was like, okay, so what? The trial ran out, that just means it makes a noise every now and then? I don't care. And that was it. So like that's all over those records. It's insane. But again, I didn't really feel like I was documenting that stuff for anybody other than myself and a couple of people who would like, maybe I thought, oh, maybe they're ASOB fans and they'll find out about Bomb the Music Industry through like the ASOB message board, you know?
It's part of the charm of it though as well, isn't it? It's kind of like what we're saying about it being so raw now still. It's the same kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm way down with that vibe. I don't think I would do it now, but that's mostly just because it would be dishonest, you know? Like that was very honest and to that moment, and I think that is that's a special thing. I think anytime where you could capture like the creation of it, I think that's a very cool little ingredient to add into there, you know?
Yeah, for sure. You mentioned, you kind of briefly mentioned merch a little bit back as well, and the way that, you know, you kind of were trying to use it initially to get funds for the band. When it comes to the merch now, you released a coloring book for the last record?
Yeah.
What's kind of all in there? Is that the cover and stuff, or what's kind of in that book?
Oh, our friend Gil just I was like, he's a really good cartoonist and illustrator. He's our buddy from San Jose, Gilbert Armendariz. Armendariz is I think if you look at the coloring book thing, you could see this isn't transcribed. This is a podcast. You're listening to this.
Yeah.
Right? Well,
yeah.
I said his name very wrong, and I'm sorry, Gil, if you're listening to this. Anyway, our friend Gil, who is awesome, I hit him up. I was like, hey, man, do you want to make a coloring book for our record? Like just an image per each song. And I sent over, and we kind of talked about references, and I was talking a little bit about like kind of like psychedelic stuff, but also like Tezuka, who is like a famous like Japanese cartoonist, and just kind of like sent over some images of just like vibes that I liked. And then he kept sending this shit back that was like mind blowing and awesome. So it's just 13 images that are loosely based on the songs, but also they're kind of just riding a vibe. It's really cool. I think the coloring book is awesome.
You used to work at a graphic design place that was doing coloring books as well, right?
I did work at a graphic design place doing coloring books. Yeah. That's interesting that you know that. I scanned in things that other people drew and made sure they were clean. It wasn't like the most particularly creative job, but it allowed me time to do that with one hand and book tours under my desk on my phone with the other hand.
What was the weirdest thing you had to scan in?
Oh, certainly the weirdest things I had to scan in were like photography of naked kids, because it was like form photography, you know, I guess like for people to draw. And it's just like a series of images. And I was like, this is weird. This is fucked up. I don't like this.
Yeah, kids though. I don't know if that would be.
I don't understand how they were still making this stuff.
What year are we talking here?
I'm talking like 2006. Yeah, that's weird. It's fucked up. That was the weirdest things that I had to do. But also I don't know if you are I don't know. And also, to make this a little bit less crazy sounding, I'm not talking about like an 11-year-old kid. I'm talking like infant to like around that. And like, I don't know. It was fucking weird. That
So
shit was
weird,
weird. Or like naked adults jumping. Like there's just a lot of nudity.
Yeah, when you were working for Rockstar as well, was that graphic design too, or what were you up to there?
No, when I was working for Rockstar, I was just like a PA. It was also like pretty brief. Like I was mostly just like driving a truck around, like dropping Red Dead Redemption shit off for Comic-Con, that kind of thing. But there was a point where like there's a video game called Midnight Dub 3 or Midnight something Racers 3 Dub Edition. Midnight, what is it? Fuck. It's a racing video game. Anyway, so you can't, there's like no code to just unlock all the cars, and they were doing all these demos. So me and my friends Diego and James, we had to just sit and play this game and beat it a bunch of times to just unlock all these cars as fast as we could. And that was one of the weirdest jobs I had. And I like went straight from that to tour, and I was driving the van crazy that night.
Yeah. I mean, so did you say you wrote most of this in 2018 when you weren't touring as much? Was that kind of a period similar to now in terms of being stuck in one place? Or
yeah, no. I mean, I was still traveling though. Like I was coming out to LA to work on the musical. I did an Antarctica Vespucci tour. We went to Japan. No. We went to Hawaii with Bruce Lee Band. Like we did some. I did like some little stuff, but it was a lot of low pressure stuff. You know.
Yeah. You've been to Japan with the Bruce Lee band, though?
Yeah. Not this time, but we've been to Japan and Korea 3 times. That is like a fucking lucky thing in my life.
Is that where you got the tattoo?
I got that in Korea. Yeah, my friend Trash did it. It's one of her first tattoos. But it's the best. It's the best done tattoo I think I have, and it's awesome. Trash rules.
Is it an octopus, or what was it again?
It's a takoyaki octopus on a surfboard saying I'm gonna pronounce it wrong, but like shibajang, which is like fuck yeah, or like fucking cool in Korean. Because that was a tour where we went to Hawaii and Japan and Korea, and I wanted to get all of that in a tattoo. And Trash drew it, and it's awesome.
How are you finding then being off tour at the moment?
I don't like it. I want to play shows. I just put out a record I'm excited about. Yeah, it sucks.
It feels like in a weird sort of way, it almost ties into the beauty of breathing a little bit on the new record. This kind of idea of a frustration that is really quite big, and there doesn't seem to be. It's not something that can be solved simply. You could kind of apply that song to the feelings you're having now, maybe in a weird sort of way.
Yeah, I think it's something that other people are doing that I think is cool. I don't think I've ever noticed more than on this record that like people can take what they want from songs, which is a really cool thing. Because obviously, I was not writing about being in a pandemic at all on that record. I think I've already told you, like I was writing about my own little precious existential crisis bullshit I was going through. It's a thing where I'm like, I see how people are making the connections. I don't make the connection, but like more power to you. Make that connection. The song's not about me, you know?
Did that, we've spoken a little bit about the kind of, like we're saying, you're saying there, the surroundings, the existential things that were kind of flowing through your mind at the time of writing this. Did they kind of figure themselves out, or is that still a conversation you're having with yourself?
I don't know. I'm not around people anymore. I haven't road tested it yet. We'll see. We'll see if like when I go on tour, when I see a crowd, I get terrifyingly anxious and run away, or we'll see if I'm just like, hey, what's up?
Are you quite enjoying getting a little bit of space back from people? I guess it's nice to start. How long have you been kind of in lockdown, or not lockdown, but this
March. It's been almost a year. No, I don't like it. I want to see people 100%. I miss seeing people. There is a niceness to it, like for a second there, but I like peeing. I like peeing people. I like seeing people, I like my friends, and I like meeting people at shows. I think I just have anxiety that I need to get over. And honestly, most of the people who I meet at our shows fucking understand that, and they're very cool about it. So it's like not really, you know.
How does not seeing people affect your creativity and kind of being not isolated?
It's weird.
You know.
I don't know, just not doing anything sometimes feels like there's less to write about in a lot of ways. I think it also encourages me to think of things a little bit more abstractly, which will be a cool vibe because that's not really something that I do all that much. I'm usually pretty specific about shit. So, that'd be a cool way to stretch it.
I guess whenever we put ourselves in a new scenario, this is maybe quite a special case, but at other times in life, it does force us to look at things in a slightly different way. Do you remember the first or the last time before this pandemic where your kind of perspective shifted quite significantly because of things that were going on?
I mean, yeah, moving to Los Angeles. Like, is that what you mean? Like,
yeah.
Do you mean like a political thing or just whatever?
No, I was just meaning in life, really, to be honest.
No, moving to LA, man.
Yeah.
I fucking don't live here. I'm from New York, Like I've lived in New York for basically forever. So moving somewhere else is a definite, like, moving across the country is a huge perspective shift. I don't know if you've lived in the same place for forever or if you've moved around, but I moved once where me and Christine moved to Athens, Georgia, and I found in moving there and a little bit in moving back to New York, you kind of just get to reapproach your own identity and be a little bit more of a person that you would want to be. I guess I was like kind of excited to do that out here, but I feel like I never really got the chance, and now I'm just a weird psycho loner who's always in the work chat, or like it, or I don't even, or like putting up weird holiday decorations where we have like our like skull ghost from Halloween with a Santa hat on it. Like, I don't know. I feel like everybody just thinks I'm a psycho.
It's interesting what you're saying, though. I completely get what you mean about when you go to a new place and you kind of consciously change yourself a little bit or try and come across in a slightly different way. Do you feel you actually change as a result of that, though, or is it more just a surface level thing?
I think it's more of a way to reapproach like how you're feeling right now. You know what I mean? To be able to like grow in a way where like the baggage of who you were doesn't really have to hold you down the same way. I think it would be good if it was easier I think just like a goal is to just do that anyway in life. Just be the person who you are in that moment. You know what I mean? So, but I think moving helps that because you have a new environment to kind of like push you along there, Can
you kind of do that musically in a way as well? Like if you change the soundscape out for a new record?
I think so. I mean, I hope so. I'm always the thing I'm trying to do mostly whenever I'm working on records is just kind of challenging myself to do a new thing, I'm trying to challenge myself lyrically. I'm trying to challenge myself musically. I don't know if it's ever really in ways that seem apparent to someone who's listening to it, but like I know the ways that I'm challenging myself on records,
I'm interested, when you packed everything up from New York to go to LA, did you find yourself going through quite a lot of memories, having to like kind of sort through everything?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, it was sad and it was weird, but that's how moving is. I found myself, something that was fun was just, I guess, when I was cleaning out my studio at the old apartment, just kind of coming across little artifacts from tour, whether it be set lists or flyers or like notes that were like taped to the merch table, just like little shit like that. Like that stuff was really nice and fun to come across. We got rid of all of our DVDs, and I think that was a foolish mistake. I got rid of so much. I think that was like one of the weirdest things, was just like, all right, we're moving. We got to get rid of all this shit. And we donated like a ton of shit. It felt good, but it was certain to like, rid yourself of that physical baggage and lighten your load. That felt good, but also, there's some bittersweetness to it for sure.
Yeah, it can be quite liberating to kind of feel like you're getting rid of possessions and getting rid of things that maybe you feel a little bit attached to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that the same musically? Is that a kind of similar feeling if you take something out of a mix? If you're like mixing a song and you take an element out of it, does it feel liberating in a similar way?
Dude, I feel like I never take an element out of it. So I don't know, maybe.
Just add more shit in.
Yeah, well, no, I mean, I think, I don't know. I think a lot about the song before it starts getting tracked and like how it will be arranged and stuff. And yeah, maybe I do just kind of pile more on. I feel like I don't know how to make a single instrument sound all that good tonally or performance wise, but I know how to make 20 instruments sound confusing. So that's something.
So is the song like fully, pretty much, is the producing kind of the last step? Is the song mapped out in your mind or demo wise before you kind of commit it fully to tape?
Yeah, for sure. And I think the last step is just like the four of us getting in a room, or the five of us getting in a room for like 4 or 5 days before recording and just playing through it a lot, playing through it quietly, seeing what like beats and accents line up. I think that's kind of the final step, is like playing through it as a band, seeing where there's space for Mike to do cool shit, seeing where there's space for anybody to find what they would like to do, and just find the spots to make sure that we're like all hitting things at the same time so that it sounds like powerful and not jumbly.
I mean, when we look at this new record as well, and when you're writing, there's a lot of fear and worry when it kind of comes to the themes of it. So you're kind of channeling that negative energy and emotions to a certain extent into it. Is there a point for you when it switches to positive energy and becomes a different kind of feeling as a result of putting it into music and expressing it in that way?
I mean, I'm working on it. As far as like my mindset goes, I'm working on just trying to be a less negative person. It's hard for me. I'm a half Jew from Long Island. It's going to be very hard, and half Catholic, so it's going to be very hard for me to not be like a negative, fear, guilt-ridden person all the time. Just because of how I was raised, the environment I was raised in. So I think that is just very important to me about music, which is why I think I have not really been able to give it up as I've gotten older, is I think it's a really positive outlet for a lot of that negative energy. I think it's a productive and creative place for it to go. I think I'm really lucky to have found that and to be able to do that. I guess, yeah, it turns positive once it becomes a song to me, once you're kind of celebrating what's fucked up, or like celebrating that you're not alone and feeling that something is fucked up. I think that that's a good feeling, or not a good feeling, but that's something positive. It's something productive, if not positive. I think there is definitely like glimmers of positivity on No Dream. Like I think that Honeymoon Ashtray is a very positive song to me. I've read what people think about it. I'm like, oh, okay. Maybe people don't think it's positive, but to me, that's a very positive song. That's a song that's saying like all this shit. You're like, these like the littlest thing that's making you upset, it doesn't matter. It's okay. It's okay to be upset, but also it doesn't matter, and that's okay too. I think that there are little glimmers like that. I feel like when I'm writing a song, I'm trying to find places to make it not feel just like 100% negative vibes a lot of the time. And sometimes that's like, through humor. Like, I don't think I'm the only person out there who like sometimes tells jokes in order to deal with shit, or just like, you know what I mean? But then like also sometimes it's in those little moments. And I think that in that, I'm probably trying to just like get myself to also snap out of that shit,
Yeah, for sure. As you get older, and you're working through more shit in your music and more, difficult feelings, does the role that music plays in your life as a force change and evolve in a way?
I've always done it this way. So
yeah,
I don't know. I don't think that really, that doesn't have as much to do with it as like, sure, maybe, but like I'd say the context of listening to music is the thing that changes things more. Like the difference between listening to music while running versus listening to music while walking around a city, or sitting on your couch, or driving in a car, or driving in a van, or laying in a bed at night. Like I think, or like sitting at a desk. Like I think that the context of all that changes your like where you're listening to more, where I'm listening to most of my music informs that, I think, more than any of that other shit. Because that other shit is just like a slow work in progress, where like I don't know, music kind of just has always helped guide me through it, and it could be any kind of music, you know?